All coaches aspire to be champions, and this time of year is when you set that vision for your team. By now, listeners of this podcast know about signature championship rings and have met some of the signature champion coaches who partner with them to celebrate their achievements. Reputable, affordable, first-class customer service are just some of the ways we keep hearing coaches describe signature championship rings. So as you're ramping up this summer for the upcoming season, create a championship vision for your team now using the design tool at sigaturechampions.com/podcast. Give your team a visual to motivate their pursuit of a championship in 2024. And when your team has a championship moment to celebrate, we highly recommend consulting with Signature Championship Rings.
We're going inside them. We're going outside them. Inside them, outside them. Fight, 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 fight. What do you say, man?
Thing to do isn't to punch them, isn't to talk to them. There's only one way you get respect, and that's by looking somebody in the eye for 60 minutes.
It was a great game for college football.
And Notre Dame is going to go for 2 points. They're going to try to win it. Steenberge is going back to throw. He throws the end zone. It's caught by Sweeney. Notre Dame has taken the lead over Purdue.
They realize that maybe 1 + 1, if you do it right, can equal a heck of a lot more than 2. And I think that's real synergy.
This week's conversation on Kileleni to the Summit is with Troy Calhoun, head coach at the United States Air Force Academy. Patrick, the academies are always a special place. Troy Calhoun has been there a long time, since 2007, one of the most tenured head coaches in the FBS. And just, again, another great example of leadership in our game.
Yeah, I got to know Troy and my buddy Mike Whalen again, as I think back. But I was invited by Mike to, first of all, look for a couple coaches who might want to go on the military service trip that he was putting on in 2016. And I suggested Chris Creighton, got him on there, and Mike already had Troy Calhoun on there, and he had Chip Kelly, who at the time was coaching with the San Francisco 49ers, so he was on that trip. So it was quite a group. And the other coach who was going to go could not join in the end, and so he asked me to go along, even though I was not a coach. But it was a blast for me to spend time with people like Coach Calhoun, to talk to him a lot about the Air Force Academy, about the whole service academies segment of college football. I have a nephew who ran track at the Air Force Academy and was just pinned as a full bird colonel. So Greg Steenberge, it's great to have him there. And I talked with Troy about kind of what the guys do, the guys that are playing football, how they make it through all the demands of the service academy. And he just had great things to say about the whole process there, and was wonderful in reaching out to the young men and women of our military who were located. We went to Bahrain, we went to Djibouti, which is one of the stranger places I've ever been. We went to base in Germany and also a base in Italy within like an 8-day trip. So getting to know Troy was very special.
Patrick and I will be back with our Winning Edge takeaways on this conversation about character and commitment with Troy Calhoun, head football coach at Air Force. What you see on tape is a direct reflection of what you teach and how you teach. Video is important, but if you don't teach well, you're not going to like what you see on your video. First Down Playbook has been helping coaches teach better for 13 years. It allows you to present installs, playbooks, and practice cards in half the time with NFL quality. Coaching tools like video pairing, a player app, practice schedules, and wristband sheets have made First Down Playbook a program management system with everything in one place. If you're in a position of leadership with your football program, receive a free 1-week look at First Down Playbook. Call them at 512-814-6158 or visit them on their website or social media. Mention Coach and Coordinator Podcast or use the coupon code COACH24 to receive a $100 discount off the normal $700 First Down Playbook team membership price. Links and the phone number are in the show notes.
This is Patrick Steenberge, host of your podcast, founder and president of Global Football, visiting today with longtime head football coach at the U.S. Air Force Academy, Troy Calhoun. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm good, Patrick. You doing all right?
I'm doing fine. Where do I find you?
You know what? You find me in the great, great city of Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Nice. A good place to be. I've been there often. Thanks for jumping on with us. We're going to talk about a lot of things that are pertinent to our life today and every day. And I know with you as a coach and mentor at the U.S. Air Force Academy, you deal with developing leaders and teams every day. I'm just wondering, tell us a little bit about growing up as you were a youngster. Is there somebody you can look back to as a mentor and say, this person really kind of set me on a good road?
Golly, Patrick, we've been so fortunate to be around so many strong and just unbelievable influences. It starts at home, having parents that really, really made an imprint in terms of work ethic. Goodness, I can remember my mom going, she worked and then went to go get her nursing degree after she'd had my sister and I. My dad was a teacher, high school teacher and coach, and yet in the summers would go work in the mill to try to make a few extra bones. I just don't think you ever forget. I mean, their commitment day in, day out, not only to their family, but to their community. I think anytime you have an emergency room nurse and you have a teacher and a coach, you realize that life goes by in a hurry, and because of it, let's find a way to give to others, and I try to hold true to that too.
Yeah, we're those of us who had those type of families to grow up in are very blessed. How about, as you grew up, things don't always, you're not all of a sudden a member of the U.S. Air Force Academy, which you attended and graduated in '89. But how about some adversity you maybe had to overcome in your developing years, something you look back on and said, man, I'm glad I got over that hump?
I think every single day, especially initially, when you come to the United States Air Force Academy. I played 3 sports, played year-round athletics in high school. So, Patrick, I was football in the fall, I was basketball in the winter, played point guard in basketball, was a middle infielder in baseball, and then in the summer, I actually played American Legion baseball, was fortunate enough to be a part of a team that won a state championship, won a regional championship, went to the American Legion World Series in New Orleans. So my first time, I never had an opportunity to come see the Air Force Academy. So literally, the first day I arrived in Colorado Springs was the first day of basic training. And I can tell you, the first 3 mornings I woke up, literally, I'd look in the mirror, and I'd be brushing my teeth, I'd be shaving, whatever it was. And the only thing I tell myself, who in the world, why would you ever go to this school? So I got to tell you, those first few weeks of basic training, I thought, this is not education. This has nothing to do with learning in a classroom or sports. Right. I want to get cranked up in football. Let's go. And,
yeah.
And you're working on marching, you're shooting an M16, just the basics. I have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, what does this have anything at all to do with blocking and tackling? So was there some early adversity? Absolutely. Yet at the same time, I do think when you go through challenges, and so many of them, especially when you're aware, anytime you go through some difficulties, the key is to understand that, hey, there's a way where you can come out of this where you're even stronger. And you also realize how important it is to be aware, to learn from what happened yesterday or in the past of its history, whatever that may be. You got to live by by moving forward. And I've tried to adhere to that, even in the way that we coach here at the Air Force Academy, too.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody who goes through the military academy that first couple of weeks probably had the same sensation. You going, hey, I'm here. I'm going to be a football player, right?
Yeah, I really thought you were going somewhere to get a world-class degree. great friendships. And friendships to me, that's a spree. That's, hey, I set a screen, you come off that screen, and I roll to the basket, and either you knock
Right.
down the jumper because a guy didn't come out and switch right away, or I roll to the hoop and you feed me and we make a bucket. Our team does. And there initially, those first 20 days or so, I thought, what's this have to do with being really, really good around the bag and turning a double play or whatever that may be?
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, did you have a goal when you were in high school to go to the academy? Was that an early goal, or did that just evolve into it?
It didn't at all. I had no idea about the place, and
Really?
I had it was right at the beginning of my senior year. I received a call from Jim Grobe. Great man, phenomenal football coach, incredible football coach. I mean, what he did later on, you go down the road at Wake Forest where they won the ACC championship, played in the Orange Bowl. Well, I get a call there. It was in early September. And he said, hey, we have an interest in you here at the Air Force Academy. And I had no idea what, I really didn't, Patrick. I had no idea in any way in terms of what the school was all about. So the next day, my mom, again, like I said a little bit earlier, was an emergency room nurse. And so she goes into work that day and said, hey, she mentioned to a couple of the docs there that were in the reserve, said, hey, Troy got a call last night from a place called the Air Force Academy. Do you guys know anything about it? Well, one of the docs blurts out, Joan, if he has an opportunity to do that, he has to go. Mm-hmm. And so she came back that night and said, hey, if this comes to fruition, then you have to do this. And I thought, whoa. I visit with a bunch of parents, and how many of them share with me, hey, look, it's got to be something he really wants to do. And I laugh now because I kind of wondered, did I even get to make that decision? So that's how I discovered the place. It was by no means at all where as soon as you hopped out of the womb, lo and behold, no matter what, we were going to go fly F4s or F-16s, or in this day and age, F-35s.
Well, in some cases, and I know you've seen this with your players, I'm sure, is you just got to be prepared for what comes at you. I mean, you obviously had done the things in high school that made you eligible to be considered to the Air Force Academy. So you did all the things background without having that goal.
Well,
does that make sense?
Absolutely. I do know this. You realize, and this goes for anything that we do, whatever our current task is today. And when you're a teenager in high school, be a good person, be a good student, go get involved with activities and do it as well as you possibly can. And golly, who knows? And if you kind of adhere to that in 30 years, whether it's a business opportunity, if it's a friendship, whatever that may be, you're going to be pretty well prepared, whatever comes from whatever direction that incoming may land.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate with my global football organization that I get to travel with a lot of student athletes, both high school and college. And it's funny, inevitably, I'll be talking to some young man and he'll say, Coach, how do you get to do this kind of thing? And I'll say, well, the first key is just show up every day. Get your butt out of bed and go to work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That is such a great point. And I don't know, you think especially the way it is now, but there's so much to it that if you can develop the habit of getting up and going to work and just extending yourself. And if you do that today, this is the one day where we have an awful lot of control over. But hopefully what it does, it embeds a sense of responsibility, and you develop some habits that are healthy habits that carry forth through the rest of your life.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Well, you've been coaching there at the academy since 2007. Tell me about a couple of your teams maybe that you look back on and say, boy, they didn't have as much talent as they ended up the level of success they achieved. So I'm always fascinated by teams and whatever. Can you think back about some of those teams?
Oh, golly, Patrick, more than a couple.
Yeah, good.
I think and it has something to do with the dynamic of being at the United States Air Force Academy. And, I wake up each morning and I know that it is very, very difficult. It's hard. I don't know if there's a more challenging, this is a place where there have been seasons or there are weeks maybe, that we can relate to in terms of preparation where you think we've done everything right in terms of everybody being focused in meetings, how hard we've attacked the weight room, the quality of the communication. Coaches put together a solid plan, and yet here you can do everything right, and the results still may not be the way you want when you look up at the scoreboard on a Saturday evening. But I think what you develop is you come about an approach where no detail can slide, and you have to be highly, highly disciplined. Yet just because you have team members that go to school at the United States Air Force Academy doesn't guarantee that. And so we've been very, very fortunate in that regard. I do think if you ever have one season in the next 10, 12 years or in the previous decade, whatever that may be, where you ever got the 6 wins or were able to get to a bowl game, there was probably some pretty splendid chemistry. And each team has their own identity. And I think, you just, with the turnover that we have here, with the seniors that depart, ironically, this past Saturday, we just had all 30 of our seniors from this past season now have earned a degree and earned a commission to serve as a leader and officer in the United States Air Force. So I guess generically, to answer your question, we've had a good number where we've been fortunate that way, that they realize that maybe 1 + 1, if we do it right, can equal a heck of a lot more than 2. And I think that's real synergy. That's real commitment where everybody is all in. And because of it, you're able to lean on each other. And yet more than anything else, it just makes you even more determined to bring even more, whether that's to your team, whether that's to your family. And along the way, the mental toughness that you develop and the pride. And there's a way when you're a part of a team, rather than it being solely about only me and I, is you learn the value of taking personal responsibility. And along the way, you develop some resiliency that's extremely healthy for the rest of your life.
As coaches, we know that some of the biggest hurdles to our team's success can come from off the field. Your team needs support to tackle the endless list of expenses, uniforms, training equipment, travel, and more. But raising that money can feel like a full-time job. Thankfully, there's Vertical Raise. Vertical Raise is the premier online fundraising platform using innovative technology to create the easiest and most efficient system available. Raise more money in less time with a local fundraising coach who works with your team every step of the way to customize the ideal fundraiser. With options for online donations, digital discount cards, premium product sales, and even spirit shops, Vertical Raise has top-of-the-line solutions for every fundraising style. To find out more, visit verticalraise.com and we'll get you connected with an exclusive offer on your first fundraiser. I've always been interested in the use of technology to make our jobs more effective, so I'm excited to continue sharing modern football technology with you here on the podcast. This innovative system leverages tendencies to improve self-scouting, game planning, and in-game decision-making at the speed of the game. Modern football stands out because it's a battle-tested platform used by teams at all levels, like 4-time national champion Bishop Gorman, the 5-time California state champion Folsom Bulldogs, 6-time Texas state champion Lake Travis, Cal football, and the CFL's Grey Cup champions, the Montreal Alouettes. So book a demo today to see why these teams trust modern football technology. Visit www.teammofo.com/demo and mention Coach and Coordinator Podcast or use the coupon code CC10 to receive 10% off your first year.
You had an outstanding season last year. Tell me something about the dynamics of that team. What allowed you to be so successful?
I think, Patrick, the biggest thing that came into play, we had guys that had experience, and they took some lumps as sophomores and juniors, probably were out there playing before they were really, really ready to be college football players.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I think truly embrace the process, in terms of, hey, it's not something where things are going to be instant. I think some of those experiences were great learning opportunities, and they're able to apply those. And then the other aspect of it, too, is when you do have guys that are self-starters that love what they're a part of, the importance of having passion for whatever you do. Goodness, if you're a dad, if you're mowing the yard, or if you're in recruiting, or in this case, being able to commit to be a Division I football player and to be an Air Force Falcon, you get a bunch of guys that have that, then you're going to have a very, very strong culture for that particular season.
Boy, that term passion is something I try to live by, and I know you do. And fortunately, you've got a lot of young men who live every day with passion there. Expand a little bit upon that, would you? Because there's some people out in this world that may be listening that are struggling to be passionate today. They may feel they're kind of in a rut. Talk a little bit about that.
I think you got to decide, what do I want to commit to? And what is that? Do I want to be a really, really good student? Is that what I want to commit to? Do I want to be an outstanding employee? Do I want to be fit? Do I want to see the way I can develop and learn and grow, whether that's professionally or personally? It starts by truly being dedicated, making a commitment. And if that's who you are, you're going to develop some fortitude and a strength of character that's going to carry you through whatever hurdles or whatever challenges come about. And quite frankly, in this, when we live, there are going to be many, many difficulties and hurdles and challenges that come about, but how resolute, the kind of fortitude that you have character-wise, that's what allows you to push forward.
You're dealing with leaders, obviously, who everybody who's at the Air Force Academy is training to be a leader in the armed forces. What's it like coaching a group of 100 leaders out there? It's, some of them got to follow too, right?
Well, Patrick, they aren't there yet. If they were, then we wouldn't need the United States Air Force Academy, right? Yeah. We just hand them a degree and hand them a commission and say, you're already a second lieutenant. So, I think more than anything else, the steps that are necessary to become a healthy and effective leader, first and foremost, you got to be a really, really good follower, right?
Yes.
And that's so much that's a part of the first 10 months while you're here at the Air Force Academy, is how well do you follow? And that means, instinctively, but awareness-wise, being able to identify somebody that you do want to follow. To follow good leaders, I know every single day I'm still looking for good leaders, even though what my role and what my requirement is to be a very good teacher and leader as a coach here at the United States Air Force Academy. I think you got to have that hunger. You got to have that appetite to always seek to learn and to get better. And I think that's so true for our guys here also. And so, really because of it, you start to see where it takes 2 or 3 years, maybe until you truly grasp what it means to be a leader of a team.
That makes a lot of sense. Hey, you and I first met. We got on a plane in Atlanta and traveled to the Middle East, to Bahrain, to Djibouti, back in Italy, Germany, visiting the troops. Tell a little bit about that experience. I know you've gotten to do that a couple of times, right?
I have, Patrick, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. We did, you leave from Atlanta, you fly to, to Ramstein, or you fly there to Germany. If you left on Tuesday, that means you arrived on Wednesday. So,
yeah,
you have a few minutes there to run up to your room and to get a razor out and shave and clean up a little bit. And our very first stop is we go to Landstuhl Medical Center. Yep. And we had the opportunity to interact with troops that have been downrange, primarily in the Middle East area, or you saw those that were involved in some very, very serious accidents. Yet their spirit, and you and I had an opportunity to engage and interact, and it was just beyond inspiring to hear those young troops and how badly all they wanted to do was to go back with their team and to be along those that they served. They're in there shoulder to shoulder and hip to hip. And rather than thinking about their own comfort and the challenges that were ahead for them individually, because there certainly were, just how much it meant to them to be a part of a powerful team. And, when you do go serve, do you want to serve for your country? Absolutely. But single-handedly, the most important alliance that you have are your teammates. And nobody, through their actions and through their commitment, through their toughness and their heart and their character, I don't know if you'd ever be around human beings that are more, that are more dedicated in that regard.
Yeah, that's whatever we brought to them in some smiles and, autographs, and Chip Kelly was with us, and Chris Creighton and Mike Whalen, who puts those things together. Whatever we gave to them, I felt like I got back 100-fold, right? Talking.
Goodness. No doubt, and you think, and I've been on I've been to a few, you've gone to, go to a few places, whether it is, we were talking, in Djibouti, there on the northeast tip of Africa. You go to Kuwait, or you go to Bahrain, or you go to Rota, Spain, or you go to Italy, Aviano Air Base. I mean, just each one, there's a different dynamic. There are different circumstances that are involved, but each, you look into the eyeballs and you shake a hand of one of our troops and you just get a feel for the kind of heart they have. That'll fire you up, and hopefully they're memories you never, ever forget. And because of it, hopefully that makes us work just a little bit harder to make our country better if we're here at home while they're deployed or they're located somewhere overseas.
Yeah, I think it brings a recommitment to everybody's sense and the people we can tell when we come back about the efforts that our men and women are putting forth. I'll never forget there in Bahrain. Remember, we were doing a little combine, having guys lift some weights and convert things. And there's this one guy, he was a little, he looked athletic, but a little overweight, but he's just killing all these drills. And I go over to him and said, sir, you're a pretty good athlete. Did you ever play any ball? And he goes, yeah, I played a little bit. I said, where at? He says, well, at the Naval Academy. I said, what's your name? He goes, Ricky Dobbs. Oh, you were the guy that beat my Fighting Irish a few years back and broke the streak.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, he was a tremendous football player, but just a high-quality young man, too.
Yeah, remember we did that flag football game out there, and I think you and Chip were officiating, and you were getting some guff from those guys. They didn't like some of your calls.
I got to tell you, I went 2 years prior to that, and we're up in the northern part of Iraq, and we said, we're going to have a flag football game. I said, a couple of us said, well, where's the field? They said, this is it. And what it was dust that they'd pour rocks on the top of the dust just because of some of the windstorms they'd have. And yet these guys, you would have thought they were on a well-manicured fairway at Augusta National. I mean, just, the spirit and the way they were so fired up to play. That was pretty cool.
I felt very fortunate to be among that group of coaches, and big thanks to Mike Whalen, Papa Bear, for putting that together and doing other ones. As we get ready to wrap this up, there's listeners of all different ages, out there, and from all different walks of life, and students, and maybe some students or some student athletes that are feeling a little lost. What is your words of motivation for today, Coach?
Well, Patrick, I think more than anything else, as we proceed through life, we got to know there are going to be hardships. There are going to be difficulties. That's the reality. But it's okay to extend yourself. And what it takes more than anything else each day is it takes some courage. It takes initiative. But it's when we're most proud is when we're able to persevere. Just the heart and the integrity that we develop, and what we're all about as human beings. And, the other part is, I think, especially when you're talking specifically to students, is the value of education. And I know there are times you might be taking a physics class or taking a math class. You thought, well, how's this ever going to help me? But the habits and the discipline that you develop, even though it's hard to know when you're, 16 or 18 years old, how much that helps you later on in life and how grateful you will be down the road. But it's the most beautiful thing we have is the next generations.
Yeah.
And if we truly have that kind of heart and we have that kind of love and that kind of care for them, then let's do everything we can to help them. And let's not forget that somebody helped us. And, we weren't perfect back in the day. We might want to try and convince ourselves once we hit our 40th or our 50th birthday that we were. But there were people there that supported us, that were great teachers, that were good coaches, that loved and cared for us. But I think so much of love and care is more than anything else just being there for somebody. And yet as a young person, golly, if there's something you want to do, go for it. And and whatever that is that you do want to pursue, it does require a commitment. And that means there will be some days, plenty of days where it is hard. But that's where you develop some of that mettle and that good heart and that good fortitude that helps you in the long haul of life too.
That's perfect, Troy. Thank you, Coach Troy Calhoun, for your thoughts today. Some stories, some anecdotes, and certainly some words to live by. Troy, get ready as soon as you can. Get your guys ready for another great season, and we'll stay in touch. Thank you for joining me on this podcast.
Hey, appreciate so much what you do, Patrick. Your great heart, your great spirit, and let's do it again, partner.
Troy Calhoun, a tremendous leader. You could tell, obviously, the influence of being at the academies and the people that he leads there. I think a lot of takeaways here for our coaches. Patrick, which ones did you focus on?
Well, I think the first thing that jumps out of Troy Calhoun's mouth and presence is leading by example. Nobody can be a true leader by just telling people what to do. And nowhere is that more powerfully demonstrated than on the football field. And coaches inspired by their own strong work ethic and their commitment and their resilience, leading it on to their assistant coaches and their players. He also talks a lot about fostering team chemistry, a sense of camaraderie and synergy that can lead to success. And that fits very well what's taught at the Air Force Academy, at all of our service academies. They're doing team chemistry every day and everything those young cadets do. And then also the process of continuous learning, which is something I hadn't heard from a lot of coaches, but the value of education and personal growth, on the field, but also off the field, how that just helps when you encourage your students and your athletes to commit to learning as well as developing, as well as getting faster, as well as getting stronger, but also learning. I think that's a key that Coach Calhoun talks about and really stresses with his student athletes.
Patrick, as always, I can't thank you enough for bringing these conversations to the Coaching Coordinator Podcast. We will be back next week with another episode of Kileleni to the Summit. Be sure to check out our partner Global Football at globalfootball.com. And for your fundraising needs, check out Vertical Raise at verticalraise.com, an innovative platform which we'll be sharing more about here on the podcast. Follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com and follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.